The sights of Valley regions. Come and enjoy the warm beaches of Terminus, having only recently cleared out warded partisans for the third time this week. Stay at the luxurious military town center and relax in the former elementary school with its newly opened up interior lobby. Just outside the town, the Colonial Liberators have just finished rebuilding their radar bunker to listen in to all radio traffic in the area so you can listen to your favorite songs. Or come and enjoy a fashion show by the Industrial District. Or why not head outside of town and watch as lines of new colonial tanks get f***ing ambushed.
Troops, I saw a bear here. Welcome to Update 46. Welcome to the Entrenched update. This update covers so much, including uniforms, new weapons, new vehicles, and a completely reworked trench and bunker network system. First major change you'll notice right away is there is a brand new camera, developed from the ground up, offering many differences and benefits. Aiming at the corners is no longer the most advantageous thing to do. In fact, aiming in any direction will extend your camera's reach significantly, so you can get a lot more peripheral vision and combat awareness as you run around the map. While every corner and side of the screen might not give you the exact same range, when aiming all the way out, they're so close together that the differences are pretty negligible. Hopefully this means you'll be much more aware of your surroundings as you're pushing forward, and actually take the time to assess the situation and flank. Note that the tactical camera is not available for artillery positions, drivers, and certain vehicle passenger positions. Hopefully, this gives you a new outlook on your field of fire. Moving on to the weapons and vehicles. Let's start off with the new guns. Colonials get 2, and Wardens get 3. The Colonials start off with a long rifle, the KRR-2-790 Omen. It fires 7.62mm ammunition and has 10 rounds in a magazine. The Wardens respond with their own long rifle, the Clancy Snyder M3. It fires 7.62mm ammo and 12 rounds to a magazine. The Colonials fire back with an old favorite, a heavy rifle in the form of the Volta R1 repeater. This repeating rifle fires 7.62mm ammunition and 8 rounds in the tube. A good old classic. The Wardens return fire with an interesting one. This one is a revolving rifle, the Hangman 757. It fires .44 revolver ammo and holds 6 rounds in its revolving magazine. With the addition of this rifle, it gives you the ability to equip a primary and secondary weapon on .44 ammunition. And lastly, the Wardens gain access to a new automatic rifle, the Sampo Auto Rifle 77. Fires 7.62mm ammunition, 12 rounds per magazine, and this one comes with a toggleable single shot and automatic fire modes. But be warned, in auto fire, you're going to blow through ammunition like crazy. Additionally, all these rifles, except for the Sampo auto rifle, can have a bayonet affixed to them. Moving on to the tanks. The Colonials gain a new assault tank class tank in the form of the 86KA Bardiche. The Bardiche sports a heavier, more durable build and is fitted with a coaxial machine gun on its turret, meaning that the coax and the main gun will always be pointed in the same direction when firing. It fires 68mm shells out of its main turret and 12.7mm rounds for its coax MG. This Colonial tank features 3 crew members, with the commander acting as both spotting commander and coax gunner position. It is a bit of a lumbering beast though, so don't expect to be flanking too much with this bad boy. Next up is the Warden Gallagher Mark II. This is a fast, flanking, medium tank. It comes with 4 crew, a 40mm main gun, and a 7.92mm storm cannon rounds for its hull MG. Notice that the Warden's Gallagher tank has its coax MG mounted to its body, so effectively the turret and body can turn independently of each other, although you'll have to expose your side armor if you're targeting 2 different targets. It's got about medium durability compared to most other tanks, but it is speed boost capable, so it won't fit into your standard Warden tank line. This is meant to act a little bit more independently of the battle line. Now it's time to talk about all of the new regions, but of course, we're going to speedrun it, so I think longtime viewers know what that means. Welcome to the new Siva Valley border regions, everyone. Strap in, we've got a long way to go. Nevish Line. Never mind the town's depressing names, one place is called Missile Shrine. Soon to be renamed Missile Shrine, I'm sure. Callum's Cape. Features the Fortress of Callum's Keep. That features the town hall, which I'll refer to as the Keep, which the Wardens must keep in order to secure victory. Speaking Woods. You remember that time the German Navy tried to sneak attack Norway up the Oslo Fjord only to get wrecked? Basin Sionnach. Little Lamplight from Fallout 3 grew up into Lamplight, but the slave labor continued. Howl County. The Great Warden Dam supplies most of our electricity, but to the collies, colonials like you belong on a cross.
Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
Clanshead Valley.
Hail to the king, baby.
No, but that's what the place is called. It's called the King. Morgen's Crossing has a town called Eversus. Do I even need to make the joke? The Fingers. Funny name for a region. Even funnier shape for a rock. Terminus. Welcome to the Olive Garden, motherfucker. Acrithia. This is where all the bodies from Drowned Vale wind up. Oh, look, there's that corporal from last week. Kalokai. Wannabe Paris circa 845 will be saying hello to the invading Warden Vikings, coming to pay a visit soon. Red River. A legendary battlefield will soon be once again. Ashfields. Whatever dumbass said there was a volcano on this map, I am disappointed in you. Origin. EA Origin. Coming soon to Foxhole. Next up, we've got one of the longest requested features, uniforms. Let me go over how to make them first. So from here on out, when you make standard soldier supplies, you are essentially making your faction's standard battle uniform. You cannot make the standard battle uniform, at least presently, separate from soldier supplies. When a soldier spawns in, consuming one soldier supply, they will automatically be given your faction's default uniform. If they swap out for a different uniform, they can then take their standard uniform and store it back in the base, but otherwise, they will always spawn with the default uniform. So let me re-emphasize this. A Warden battle dress and a Colonial Legionary fatigues are the default uniforms, and they are equivalent to one soldier supply. All the other craftable uniforms basically provide bonuses when working as certain roles, but none of these uniforms limit you in what you can do, only the efficiency in which you can do some things. Also note that when you are killed, regardless of what uniform you are wearing, no one can pick up a uniform off a dead body unless you are carrying a spare uniform. But you will not drop the uniform your soldier is wearing when you die. Another big change to inventory is that soldiers can no longer stack most items. So for example, clips or magazine of ammunition cannot be stacked unless you are wearing certain uniform types, and I'll go over these in a second. Now, while it might be frustrating for some people wearing certain uniforms, if you're wearing default uniforms, most of this should make sense. Besides, I don't want to come across another colleague private with over 100 clips of rifle ammo on them ever again. Okay, for the uniforms. As I said before, the default Colonial Soldier uniform are the Legionary fatigues, and the Wardens have the Infantry battle dress. Both of these are identical uniforms. Both have the ability to stack kinetic weapon ammunition and reduce the weight for kinetic weapons encumbrance. For Colonials, the Medic uniform is known as the Medic fatigues, and the Wardens have the Physician's jacket. These are also identical. Bandages and blood plasma will stack, and first aid and trauma kits will have their encumbrance reduced. For Engineers, the Colonials have the Fabri rucksack, and the Wardens get the Sapper gear. Both of these are also identical, reducing any resource materials encumbrance. For the Tankers, the Colonials get the Tankman's coveralls, and the Wardens get the padded boiler suits. Both allow you to stack gas mask filters, and basic materials have had their encumbrance reduced. Alright, the next couple of uniforms start to differ. For the explosives, Colonials get the Grenadier's baldric. Grenades stack, and all grenades have reduced encumbrance, while the Wardens get the Specialist's overcoat, which allows heavy ammunitions, like RPGs and such, to have reduced encumbrance. For snowy weather, the Colonials get the heavy topcoat. Kinetic weapon ammunition stacks, and it has some low resistance to snowstorms, but the Wardens definitely have the advantage here with the Sievish parka, allowing kinetic weapon ammunition to stack, but providing higher resistance to snowstorms, since they're from the north, of course. For scout uniforms, the Colonials come with the Recon camo. This provides a high chance of not being detected by enemy intelligence networks, though it's never a guarantee. The Wardens have a similar in the Outrider's mantle. It has a high chance of not being detected by enemy intelligence, however it does also provide low resistance to snowstorms, so Warden snipers can sit in snowfields for much longer. And the last one is the Legionary's oil coat for the Colonials. Kinetic weapon ammunition stacks and provides high resistance to rainstorms. If you want to select a uniform to wear, check your local base's stockpile and see if there's any uniforms in store. Put them into your inventory and change it out. Just be sure to put your regular one back in to reduce the weight. Also, town halls are gone. They've been replaced with town bases. And town bases have new features and 3 variants. The 3 variants are the town center, the school, and the post office. And this simply makes it more immersive. Why would there be specialized buildings? These are just occupied buildings that now serve a militarized purpose. But these new redesigns also unify this structure's gameplay with the other structures such as the garrison or safe houses. They have full interior spaces, they have window slots you can climb into and fire out of, and they have AI garrison windows. These bases also have 3 tiers, which are now actually displayed on the map in the form of stars above the base icon. So getting to Town Hall, if you're the opposing faction, it's now going to be much more of a fight. No freebies anymore. Another new change is the fact that barbed wire, tank traps, and sandbags have been, well, they're still in Foxhole. However, the way you build them has been completely revised. This is known as the new large material system. No longer will you be bringing B-mats to the front. First up are pallets. These are pallets of materials that you'll use to build these structures. At the construction yard, you'll find the ability to construct pallets of sandbags, pallets of barbed wire, and pallets of metal beams. Once you construct these pallets, you'll load them up onto a flatbed and ship them off to the front. Now you can either ship them off directly to the front or create some sort of backline resource pile and then ship out individual pieces in trucks, but I'll leave that to your discretion. Once the pallets get to where they're needed to go, you can unpackage them and grab one of the materials. In this case, I'm starting off with the sandbags. Then you can select the build menu and place it down. But they're no longer straight or curved walls. You can bend them, rotate them, and shape your sandbag walls, barbed wire, fences, and other similar structures how you wish. Your standard sandbag wall will take 3 sandbags to build. You can also upgrade it for 3 sandbags and make a double wall. This new system allows for much more flexibility and customization when creating open field defenses. It also allows you to actually set up these defenses, at least once you have the materials, much quicker than previously. Instead of sitting there and hammering away for 10 or 40 B-mats, just take 6 sandbags and lay them down. It's even faster if you have a buddy or 2. It also allows you to snap these defenses together. You can snap barbed wire to sandbags, or sandbags to sandbags, or whatever your heart's content. A new structure is the new barbed wire fence. Unlike the regular barbed wire, this one is upright, and infantry cannot pass it. They cannot climb over it, they cannot run through it. Tank traps also function on this similar system. Metal beams, 3 of them, are placed together to create a tank trap. A few things to note about this new large material system is that some of the materials, when these structures are destroyed, will be recovered, so you won't lose everything if your sandbag wall gets run into. If you're quick enough, you can pick up these sandbags that have been dropped on the ground and use them again in a new structure, although you won't get 100% of the materials back for it. Another additional feature is that most of these defenses, such as sandbags and the barbed wire, can now be built on bridges. And now, another big shakeup. Foxholes and AT guns are gone. Rest in peace, Foxhole. You will now simply be known as Hole 2021. Okay, jokes aside, the old structures are being replaced with a new lineup of pillboxes, but these ones are hexagon shaped, and they come in 3 varieties. You've got your all-around anti-infantry rifle pillbox, which fires 7.62 rifle rounds in a 360-degree spread. You've got your machine gun pillbox, which fires 12.7, but only in a single small arc to the front of it, but it does have a longer range than the rifle pillbox. And lastly, the anti-tank pillbox, which fires the 20mm anti-tank rounds. So it's not a cannon like the previous gun turret, but it will still put up a fair amount of damage, especially if the tank tries to rotate around it, thus getting hit by multiple guns at the same time. Note that you have the ability to garrison all 3 of these pillboxes. However, you are limited to their firing arcs if you choose to shoot out of them, which basically means the machine gun pillbox. A new mechanic when placing these and any other AI defensive structures is you will now see the AI's firing arcs and any interruptions caused by permanent objects like trees or walls. Things like vehicles and soldiers, however, will not trigger a shadow in this field of fire since they are movable objects and potentially could be moved out of the way. And yes, of course, the foxholes will be making their return. They will be more like actual foxholes. They will no longer contain an AI garrison to fire at enemies. They are simply a hole in the ground dug with a shovel. for you and maybe your buddy to hop into and fire back or take cover. Foxholes can also be filled in with a shovel, in case you make a bad placement. And yes, vehicles can run over top of foxholes without destroying them, and yes, you can survive being run over if you duck your head down. Of course, you'll need that shovel for a lot of other construction as well. Trenches and bunkers have seen a huge amount of rework, offering infinitely new ways to build and maintain your trenches and bunker systems just the way you want them to. Let's start with trenches. Trench connector ties now can be placed on their own without the need for conventional straight trenches. Their snapping mechanic has also been changed, where you can stretch and mold them how you wish to build them, rather than having it snap to 2 points independently. And this next section goes for all trench and bunker pieces. For the builders of trenches and bunker networks, you can reserve your pieces of trenches, bunkers, etc. for 48 hours, meaning that you and your squad will be the only ones to be able to modify and change these if you select this option. This of course does not include if these pieces are destroyed or attacked by enemies. Additionally, you can only reserve bunker and trench pieces if there are no enemies within the area. This option is located in the upgrades menu. Another additional option is demolish bunker or trench pieces if it's done within 3 hours of that trench or bunker's construction. So in case there's a section of your trench or bunker that's poorly laid out, you have the option to destroy it pretty much instantly. Just make sure no one's in it, or else you won't be able to do it. If it's been more than 3 hours since the construction of a trench or bunker piece, or if it's a bunker piece that belongs to the enemy and it just happens to be in the way, you do have the option with the shovels to fill in trenches. That way, they're not in your way. Same thing goes for bunker and trench husks. They won't stand in your way of constructing new defenses anymore. There are a litany of new ways to customize and defend your trenches. The first most obvious one is the new sandbags. A straight trench piece is now divided into 3 front, 3 rear, and 1 side sections. Each of these sections can be filled in with upgrades. So for example, I put sandbags on the side here. Now I'm putting a bridge over the middle, as you usually do. And then the additional upgrades, such as this barbed wire I'm placing, scales to the side that is still empty. So you can completely isolate your trenches from the enemy. Additionally, placing sandbags on the back wall of your trench prevents enemies from firing back into your lines if they happen to capture your trench. So you really can now make a directional, one-way facing trench safe for your troops to use, but not for the enemies to use against you. This is assuming you have the BMATs to build it. Of course, these new upgrades also apply to every piece of trench network you can construct. Connector trenches, trench pits, everything. It's all customizable now. Just be sure not to isolate yourself in your own trench if you get carried away building. Additionally, for Tier 3 concrete trenches, there is a new piece called the trench roof, which you can place over top your trenches. This gives soldiers running through the trenches concealment from the enemy, but also from indirect artillery fire. They can also run over it, or if they drive carefully enough, drive vehicles over the top of it. Construct a few of these and the enemy will have no idea how many or where your troops are responding to. One last fun one is that entirely tracked vehicles, so this means things like tankettes, scout tanks, and all the larger tanks in Foxhole, can now drive over trenches without running them over. Normal vehicles like cars and trucks can still get stopped or get stuck inside trenches, but tanks can roll right over top of them. Great if you're running a blitzkrieg, not great if you're not checking the trench for soldiers with sticky bombs on them. And in some cases, some of the tanks can wedge themselves into some of the trench pits. It's kind of amusing, but honestly, it's also a really good defensive position. Next up, let's talk about bunkers. Bunker modules. You remember, those things you needed to upgrade bunkers further can now be placed in bunker pieces such as garrisons and at corners, further increasing the amount of areas you have to work with within a bunker. Not only that, but bunker modules also now serve a secondary purpose. bunker modules or infrastructure can increase your bunker's ability. Things like bunk beds, lockers, and latrines give bunker bases a small chance not to consume soldier supplies when a soldier spawns in. Wash stations, kitchens, and pantries give anti-tank and howitzer garrisons slightly faster fire rates. Workstations and computer modules allow storm cannons and intelligence centers to take up less power to operate. And chalkboards, radio stations, and strategic maps give nearby observation towers the ability to sight targets a little bit beyond their normal detection radius. Other bunker upgrades like doorways and windows can also now be placed inside of garrisoned bunker pieces. So you can have a rifle garrison on the top floor and windows for troops to fire out of on the bottom floors, doubling your rate of fire effectively. But of course the biggest improvement is the fact that you can now traverse entire trench networks without having to leave the trench, since now the interiors of garrison structures are opened to soldiers to travel through. Additionally, when you're placing rifle garrisons, AT garrisons, or other, you can also, much like the new pillboxes, see their firing ranges and arcs when you go to build them, so you know exactly which objects are blocking their line of sight. But what about atop the bunkers? Well, now you can use them as well. Several new pieces to bunker bases have been added. The first basic one is a set of stairs. You can build stairs on the outside of bunker bases to allow you easy access to the top floor. Once you're up there, you can place down sandbag pieces on top of bunkers, so enemies can't climb up and you can find cover. Lastly, a ladder hatch has also been added as a piece, so you can climb down into your bunker from the roof without having to maneuver around it and find a proper entrance. This does also mean you can go ahead and just construct one-person bunkers for yourself or maybe a small fire team. A reminder that rooftop defenses can only be built on Tier 2 and Tier 3 bunkers. You can't build on top of a mesh Tier 1 bunker. That's ridiculous. Just, remember, sometimes it is good to have a secondary escape route. If someone tosses a grenade into one of these, well, good luck. One last structure for Tier 3 bunkers is the interior firing port. It is a metal wall with a porthole that you can fire out of. This is great if you're having to defend inside your own bunkers, to keep enemy infantry out. The other big change with bunkers comes to power. Engine rooms can now be built in any bunker and upgraded to a Tier 3 engine room. However, engine rooms now require a resource: fuel. You fuel up engine rooms much like you would a vehicle with a diesel can. Engine rooms now also distribute power in the form of wattage. This wattage is distributed to any garrison or storm cannon or any other function of the bunker base via pipes, as it was before. Now this might sound like a lot of extra burden if you build engine rooms, and it is, but there is a nice trade-off. Garrisons can fire with or without engine rooms, but garrisons with engine rooms attached to them will gain several bonuses, and you'll be able to tell if they have these bonuses by the new lights affixed at the top of garrison structures. These lights will give them further range at night, and these lights will actually track enemies traveling by them. Also, in keeping with earlier, engine rooms can now have bunker modifications added to their room, making those squares even more useful. The engine room structural integrity has also been increased to compensate for its increased importance. Just remember to extend the amount of engine rooms you have in a bunker facility based off how big it gets. That wattage will be distributed evenly to all of its functions, including a new intelligence structure, the observation bunker. These can be built at Tier 2 bunkers and up. This acts as a radio tower that provides intel. It has a longer range than your standard radio tower, and is also stronger, but of course must be attached to a bunker. This does require power, so it'll need an engine room, and it can be upgraded to Tier 3 for even greater range. But with watchtowers and observation bunkers, you have to be careful where you place them now. For the longest time in Foxhole we've had the intelligence game, but now we've got the counter-intelligence game, with the new Intelligence Center. This is the new super weapon. It might not look like much, but it'll do damage in ways you probably can't predict. The Intelligence Center is a high-tech listening post designed to intercept and decode enemy transmissions. The Intelligence Center can target distant locations and will continue to decipher sensitive transmissions over a sustained period. It has the same prerequisites for a storm cannon. You have to go through all of the upgrades. The power requirements are pretty exhaustive, so you need a few power rooms. And you need a 9-piece square bunker to build it on top of. In practical terms, you will now be able to see certain pieces of enemy intelligence on your map. Enemy watchtowers or observation bunkers can be intercepted, and you will receive that intelligence live to you. If the enemy places watchtowers at every 50 meters along one of their main logi roads, you will see those convoys traveling down that road. Of course, you have to point the Intelligence Center radar in the correct direction, and you have to increase or decrease its range accordingly. But with a few simple calculations and a little bit of math, you'll be able to get intel live on the spot. Unless, of course, a rainstorm blocks your intelligence gathering. Either way, everyone is going to have to be careful where they place watchtowers and which pieces of information they're willing to give up to the enemy. There is a more portable solution to the same issue, and this is the Listening Kit. It is a tripod-mounted device used to intercept enemy radio broadcasts. Same as the Intel Center, but not nearly as powerful and not nearly as long range. You can construct this at the factory alongside the tripod required for it. I'll demonstrate with this watchtower just in front of me. Real simple, just like any tripod-mounted weapon, set the tripod down first. Then, grab the intelligence kit and mount it onto the tripod. After that, just sit in a base or grab a radio, and you'll get all of that intel fed to you live. Partisans are going to wreak havoc with this thing, but to counterbalance it, it does emit quite a loud noise. It is a little bit of a clunky machine, so partisans might be intercepting your radio traffic, but you'll probably be intercepting quite a few of their intelligence kits too if they're not careful. Either way, this is really going to shake things up. For logistics, there are now 2 types of shipping containers. You've got the small shipping container and the large or regular shipping container. The small shipping container is essentially replacing the old standard shipping container. It can carry up to 40 crates of items, and those crates can be offloaded anywhere by hand or at seaports and storage depots. The large shipping container, which has the same model as the old regular shipping container, can now hold 60 crates of items and materials. However, it can only be offloaded at storage depots and seaports. That was a lot of stuff. I'm going to blitz through the rest of this. The following regional seaports will now begin with the following item stacks. Stone Cradle, Allad's Bite, Endless Shore, and Faranac Coast will begin with 500 crates of rifles, 1,000 crates of rifle ammo, 500 soldier supplies, 200 grenades, 500 basic materials, and 50 trucks. Border bases now prevent rapid decay around them. Some game balance includes garrison house and town base high explosive artillery damage mitigation has significantly been reduced at tiers 1, 2, but tier 3s remain the same. 300mm storm cannon rounds have been added to the tech tree. Garrison supplies and bunker supply production has been increased to 4 minutes per crate, but do note that garrison and bunker supplies no longer share a production queue with soldier supplies, so that should even things out. Garrison and bunker supply crate assembly time has been reduced, although the item assembly time has been increased. Soldier supplies have been moved into the medical category at the factories. Shrapnel shells and flare shells for the mortar no longer requires mortars to be unlocked to be manufactured. Freighters no longer require technology to be constructed. A personal favorite of mine is that players are no longer forced to automatically stand up when the shift key is pressed. Now a movement key in addition to the shift key must be pressed in order for the player to leave their stance. This is great if you're scavenging materials and there's multiple stacks on top of each other. You want to activate the context menu, but you don't want to stand up and get your head shot off. 20mm anti-tank rounds no longer have damage fall off. Bunker MG garrison damage, range, and firing arc has been increased. Max fire rate has been decreased. Jumping tech levels is no longer possible. Bunker AT garrison range, retaliatory range, and fire rate have increased, but the damage has decreased overall. Garrison houses, relic bases, and seaports anti-tank damage has been increased. Increased the encumbrance of all artillery, tank, shells, and grenades. Garrison house and safe house damage mitigation against armor-piercing damage has been increased at tiers 2 and 3. Flatbeds and half-tracks have had their torque increased for better turning. There were a litany of map changes. I'm not going to list them here. I'm sorry, you're going to have to go look at the maps. Essentially, a lot of the production towns and logistics factories have been moved all over the place with the addition of the new maps. Stockpiles have been organized so that weapons are consistently located near their ammo types. Hammers have been moved over to the utility category. Options screen now has reset to default buttons on all the screens. Keyboard configuration now supports the modifiers for Shift, Control, and Alt on all keybinds. The control key now allows players to view the second floor of bunkers and other structures. Shippables and vehicles assembled while in a crane should start selected for the crane, and a new support button that initiates an interface for reporting servers and other issues has been added. There were a lot of bug fixes as well. I'm not going to cover them. I will leave that in the patch notes down below. This has been by far the largest update I've had to cover. But tell me, what's your preferred sense of fashion in Foxhole now? What's your favorite uniform? Leave it in a comment down below. If you like what you saw, like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest Foxhole updates. And as always, good luck, keep your heads down, and stay in your foxholes. Bear out.